Can everyone hear me? Yes. Well, hi everyone. So I'm Jeremy. I'm one of the co-founders at Sunrise. And well, we've been around for about 2 years. I'm originally from Belgium. Pierre, my co-founder, is originally from France. Moved to the US and then decided to join a company here, Foursquare, and then eventually quit Foursquare and build our own company called Sunrise, which is a calendar on various platforms. So we go all the way from mobile, tablets to desktop. And essentially the goal behind Sunrise was to redefine what a calendar should be. I'm sure you're all familiar with what a calendar is and how to use it, or you think you know how to use it. We'd like to redefine what a calendar actually should be and what should be in it also. It shouldn't be necessarily related to work. It's also, a calendar is about your personal life also, and so that's pretty much the idea behind Sunrise and why we decided to not call it a calendar but Sunrise, because every day is a new day and we want you to get excited about your day and what's beyond work. Also trying to make your life and work a little bit more playful in some ways. So yeah, we're a small team, a team of 13 people today. We were across 3 different time zones, so mostly in New York, based in New York, and then we have some people in Paris and San Francisco. So I want to talk, and I want to take some time to discuss about the way we work, because I think we essentially, Pierre and I, when we decided to work on Sunrise, we decided to also rethink the way we imagine work, like redesigning the way we work, redesigning the way we build a team, and the way we ship products. The goal behind having a small team, super dedicated, was essentially to just focus on one problem, which is a calendar, and a big one, and how can we leverage the few people we have to build as much as we can and ship as fast as we can. So that's pretty much what we've been doing for the past 2 years. So yes, as I mentioned earlier, we totally redefined the way we work. I think something, and that's why I want to take the time to talk about this tonight, because I feel this is something very unique. We feel like that's probably unique to the Sunrise DNA, as we call it. So one of the things we realized, based on our past experiences, tools to use at work are very important. I'm sure you all use tools for different things. Email is one of them. Product management is another one. And we're essentially trying to focus the team and ourselves, also trying to put ourselves into a box and decide, okay, this is what we need to run the company, and what about the rest? Do we actually need it, or can we run the company just with those set of tools? So one big thing Pierre and I were, trying to fight in a way was, inbox zero. Inbox zero is essentially what a lot of email apps you see out there today are trying to fight and change. We believe inbox zero is not the problem, it's email zero. We internally at Sunrise don't send email to each other, so we obviously use email to communicate with people outside of Sunrise. But within Sunrise, we're trying to be more effective and trying to use that approach, and essentially trying to redesign our workflow, because we realize, well, we know when we don't send an email to someone, and you're using something else, to do that, well, it's going to be much more productive. And I'm going to show you in a few minutes how we do that. So how do we achieve that? The fact that we're not using emails, and how do we deliver great products to our users? So those are the only 3 tools we use at Sunrise. We use Slack for real-time communication, and I'm sure some of you know what this is about. What Slack is. We use GitHub, and mostly GitHub issues, and then Sunrise. The whole point about Sunrise, and also because we wanted to work on a productivity app, was the fact that working in the productivity space, we realized there is so much room for improvement, and so many things we could improve in the workflow itself. I will show you also in the presentation. So those are the only 3 tools we use to run Sunrise, to communicate, to build things, to share ideas and also to keep track of what everyone is doing in different, on different time zones. So just a quick overview about, some of you know what Slack is about. It's a chat. It's very simple. It's real time. When you need someone, or when you need to ask something to someone, we'll use Slack, and it's very efficient. We actually, and you can probably see on the side, we have like different channels, as we call them. And so we have a channel for New York. We have a channel for the Android team. So it's very efficient, and everyone knows or has access to those rooms within the team. So it's very efficient, and that's how we talk in real time. We use something called GitHub Issues. If you're not familiar with what GitHub Issues is, well, it's part of a broader product called GitHub, which originally allows you to push your code. So this is like very software oriented, engineering oriented. Emma, as a designer, wasn't familiar with GitHub, and Pierre showed me this tool one day, and he was like, okay, let's just use GitHub Issues, and that's the way we're gonna plan our roadmap for the next couple of months. And that's the way we essentially replaced email with GitHub Issues, because unlike an email, you cannot assign an email to someone, but here in an issue, you get to assign, and you can see it on the site, like someone is responsible for a task, and something that you cannot do in an email, something that it's really hard to put attachments in email because it's hard to follow. So we're essentially trying to change the way we communicate and put the content front and center, which is here our roadmap, for instance, or the different products we're working on. And thinking about, how do we communicate? How do we, use those tools? We realized, well, how could we actually leverage GitHub Issues and use it for our own needs when we need to communicate about t-shirts, about a new office? We just moved to a new office space. Well, let's put it in GitHub. We're using one tool so that our employees and ourselves, we don't have to go through 5 different places. It's going to be much more easier. So for instance, in this case, as you can see, we moved to a new space, and everyone within the team has access 7 days a week, 24. You don't need to necessarily talk to someone specifically or wait for a response. It's in GitHub. If it's not in GitHub, it's not there. And essentially, it's the same with the calendar. And then eventually, that's Sunrise on the web. Well, we integrated GitHub into Sunrise for our own needs first, and now today we see a lot of happy people using GitHub and Sunrise both alongside. And here you can see on the right-hand side that we integrated GitHub into Sunrise, and that allows us, for instance, to have an idea of what the roadmap is. At any time, any moment, anyone can, within the team, can know what the roadmap is, when are we shipping this product, what's the release cycle. And since we run on weekly milestones, it's very easy for us to move a milestone from one week to another. We would go in there, just literally drag the event, and this would update GitHub in the background. So what you just saw here, this essentially the issues related to the milestones would essentially move. So this is essentially how did we take a problem that we had ourselves and then eventually build a product for people. And it seems like I think we have about 12,000 people, connections with GitHub. So yeah. But so today I wanted to talk about the calendar, because that's what we built, and we have a lot to share about this. So today we see the problem of the calendar as being very exclusive. The calendar hasn't been developed for people outside of work. It's been developed for people who are just focused on how to get productive, how to find a meeting, meet with people. But it hasn't really been developed around what concert am I going tonight, or there's a really interesting exhibition at the MoMA. And this is something that's really hard, or people don't necessarily understand how to share calendars with 2 people or with friends or their family. So those are the things that we realized, that today, well, there are 2 different types of events. There are the ones at work and the ones outside of work. And we're essentially trying to focus on the ones that are happening outside of work, because we had the feeling that no one had really developed a great solution around that. So we want to design a calendar for everyone. We feel like this is something that hasn't been done in the past. If you take as an example Microsoft, Outlook, they've been really focused on the B2B. If you look at other players like Google Calendar, they've also been really focused on, even though a lot of startups are using it, it's still work, nothing like outside of work and not for everyone. So today the calendar has been developed for work, but we feel like it should also happen outside of work. It should be designed for the people, and it should also be designed for students, for families, or for groups. Because we feel that's something that's very important. Like today, the fact that Sunrise, attract a lot of people, I think is the conclusion behind that is that a lot of people found that the calendar didn't work the way it should, and by having different types of personalities and pictures, this would allow people to use the calendar in a different way. So how do we actually make the calendar more friendly? And we're still working on that, and I actually have a demo right after my talk that we're very excited to show you, because we're trying to take one problem at a time, and the calendar is a big one. So first of all, when we started Sunrise, we realized, well, the calendar doesn't have a personality. It's gray, it's white, it's plain. You see a bunch of events, in a week view, in a day view, in a schedule view, in a month view, but it's very boring, and no one really wants to work on that. And I think that's why a lot of people are complaining about it, but no one is really working on it, or you see little evolution. And we've seen a couple of players lately, but still there hasn't been a drastic evolution. So one of the things we brought very early on, and it was also based on the way we use the calendar, because we used it outside of work, was adding more personality so that people could actually tag their events with an icon, so that they could reference that special event with an icon. And by having, for instance, a cocktail, well, people would add it because they would have that icon. And we were actually really surprised how excited people were about adding events to their calendar. And so we started doing more and more, and we're still in the process. I mean, this is just the beginning, but we're very, very excited to add a lot more interactions like that. And this actually, I just want to show you this because it's actually quite interesting to see that people are so excited about such a little feature that they would take very seriously, because in the end, we all know that great design is about the details. And for a calendar, there are so many things you have to take into account, especially since it relies on the back end, on the front end, that every little detail design-wise is important and will create a delightful moment for the user. So something else we've been also focusing on, besides adding personality, adding pictures about the people you're going to meet, or adding a little resume, because we're connecting LinkedIn and Twitter and other sources just to get more information about the people you're meeting with next. We're also reinventing how should you be using a calendar. We believe that today, Apple, Google, BlackBerry, any manufacturer hasn't done a great job at reinventing the calendar on their own platforms. And so we decided to take that as our mission, to reinvent the way you add things on mobile. And not just on mobile, we've done it on desktop also, but we feel today that lots of our users, lots of people, and even our users had to go back to their desktop to actually add something in their calendar because it was so painful. So this is a quick example I want to show you, because we felt like when you buy an iPhone and you expect a high level of quality and design, you can tell, and you can tell that the picker, for instance, how do you choose a date, how do you pick a time, hasn't really been developed much on the Apple side. So we felt like, well, okay, let's just isolate this problem, this UX, and let's just focus on how can we improve this. And this took a couple of weeks for us to nail the problem, and we tried different types of iterations, and it took some time, but eventually we were very satisfied with the result. And so going from this, which is a picker, doesn't give you any context, it's very plain, we went to this. So this essentially, this is part of Sunrise on iPhone. It allows you to first, it happens in 2 steps. So you'll pick a date first, and that's how you think, because we realized, well, it doesn't seem like Apple hasn't really thought about how do you use a calendar. When you use this, it seems like they've just did a picker because they had to. But we felt, okay, it's not great. We should do a better job than Apple did. And we feel like our solution was a lot more elegant and interesting in some ways because we thought, well, it resonates more with the way we think. Well, usually when you think about adding a date, you'll add a date, for instance, next week. So let's find a visual cue to easily add a date next week. And so that's why we use the same analogy that we have on the agenda view, with the dates. And then the next step would be, well, let's pick a time. Let's add, and so our decision was to add more context when deciding what time you'd like to meet. And for instance, here in the background, you can see those gray boxes that will show your actual calendar. So you'll know in context if you can make it or if you can't make it. And this seems to us so vital because when you make those decisions on the streets, at work, anywhere on a plane, you want to have context. You want to know if you can make it or not, and this is your calendar. So it's essentially planning your life. So this is very important, and we felt like the previous solution didn't do the job. So we feel like this is one of the things that we're trying to reinvent, and we have other things that we're trying to reinvent. I will show you in a few minutes. So something else that we've been very passionate about, and that's since the beginning, Pierre and I, we felt like, okay, that's great. Let's build a calendar. Let's build a great app on different platforms with a small team, super dedicated. But we felt, okay, it's not enough. This is just, the apps in itself are just, they're interesting, but at the same time, we're not controlling much, and we're going to design great experiences, but will that be enough? And we felt like behind that, there was something very interesting, like an underlining solution that no one has really developed or thought about. Like, today you could, for instance, add, a social aspect to your product. Could be, for instance, Fisher Price. Let's share it on Facebook. Let's share it on Twitter. It's really easy to add the Facebook and the Twitter SDK. But today there is no way for you to add a time component in your product. And we thought, well, there's something we could do as Sunrise since we're developing those solutions. How could we, develop a platform beyond just the products, the front-facing products? So the platform for us is something that we felt was very important. It will also allow people to just focus on what they're best at, and we would do, in a way, the dirty work about, just focusing on time and how to make that easier for people. So today, you might have seen, or you might be familiar with those integrations. Today, you can integrate Sunrise with a couple of services, such as, the main ones, Google Calendar, Exchange, iCloud. But then on top of that, we realized, well, let's add, Songkick for your concerts, Eventbrite and Meetup for your conferences and events, and then GitHub, To-Dos, and Evernote. So all of a sudden, your calendar becomes, that centerpiece where everything comes into it. So that was really important for us, and we realized, well, there's a huge opportunity to create a platform beyond something that's not very appealing at first. So today, this is still something we're working on. We'd like to develop also and design those experiences for engineers and developers and people who are building businesses and products, and so that they don't have to focus on the time part. We will take care of that. Just like you would use Stripe for payments or PayPal, they focus on the payments. We'll focus on time, and people can really focus on what they want to do. So one of the ideas that we had is, let's build a couple of integrations first, and then eventually let people integrate their own apps, services into our system, so that they can leverage, and so that people can really bring their service into Sunrise. So this is something that we're very excited about. Now I want to show you a little demo that we've been working on, because we've been very busy for the past couple of months. This goes back to what I said. Thank you. This goes back to what I said earlier about redefining experiences. We sat down with the team and realized we realized what would be if we had to tackle a problem, or what would be the biggest problem behind a calendar? And today we felt, after thinking about it for weeks and days, we realized, well, it's really hard to plan something with someone. At least for now, it's something that's very broken, and we feel like there's a lot of back and forth. And again, you go back to email, because that's the default, and that's what everyone uses. A lot of back and forth with email. You settle on a date, but it doesn't work, and then you have to go in your calendar, and especially on mobile, it's a nightmare. So we realized, well, what would happen if, a conversation which starts in the email, just like here, what would happen if, you're writing your email and then all of a sudden, your keyboard becomes, I don't know if you can see it, but if all of a sudden your keyboard becomes essentially your calendar. So you get to pick a time. While you're writing your email, you get to pick a time, and here, okay, so I don't know if you can see it, but so you get to pick a time, and this is something that we feel like, well, this is so easy and so simple that, you could, just pick a time, decide on a duration, or maybe add a location if you want to meet at Grumpy Coffee, for instance, at a coffee shop, and then, in just a few taps, just get a URL, send it to someone, and just tell him, like, well, let's meet at this place at this time, and that's it. And then you're back to what you were doing before. So this is like something that we're very excited about. We haven't launched this yet, but it's coming soon. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. That looks awesome, by the way. Congrats.
Thank you.
So time for probably 2 questions. I've got 2 up here. I'll start down low, and then I'll come up.
Hi, I'm Anna Balk, and I'm a software developer, so it's very interesting. But how are you planning to introduce outside integration for customizable integration for people? Are you developing your own API, or are you working with individual platforms and so on and so forth?
So one of the things that happened very quickly while we were building our own tools, we realized, well, we're essentially doing kind of the dirty work. So why not let people, benefit from that work that we did? And essentially, when you'd like to build an integration for Outlook, for Exchange, for Google Calendar, and for iCloud, well, everyone has to reinvent the wheel every time for different products. And we felt like, why not share that knowledge with anyone and build a platform so that people could just use the tools with a couple of lines of code and integrate that feature or a time picker or an API very, very easily. Just like you would add a location through Google Places or add more a social aspect through Facebook or Twitter. So that's essentially the idea, but all around time and bookings. So any idea, like it could go from a concert, a venue, or with concerts, or it could go I don't know, like a museum who would like to share their dates with their visitors. Well, today no one has the tools; they have all to build it themselves, and it's a lot of work. I mean, we've been through that, and we know how painful it is. So we'd rather give those tools to people so that they can leverage the technology.
Hey. Okay, well, first of all, congratulations on your success in innovating in sort of a crowded and stale-seeming area. I'm wondering how you went about it in terms of, like you saw a lot of problems and probably had a million ideas on what you could do about it. I'm just wondering, in terms of picking which features you're going to develop first, and maybe also how you, when you were initially starting, communicated this with maybe like potential investors or anybody you were talking to bring in on the development team to say, I want to develop a calendar program, and what really sparked their interest and kept you guys with good momentum.
I see 2 questions here. So the first one is, something I didn't really mention, but we're very close to our community. We're close to our Twitter community. We're close to our, we have a support email, and actually it's part of everyone's job at Sunrise for the 13 people to reply and be in touch with our users because it's very important for us to keep that connection. It's a strong bond with, with our customers to know and understand what they need. So usually we evaluate based on the feedback they give us. And it's been, to be honest, very easy for the past 2 years because there's so many things to fix, and it's all about priorities, definitely. But at the same time, it's been almost seamless in terms of like, well, those are the next steps that we need to fix, and just in general, like, let's build a great experience. Now it's definitely more it's more focused, just like the product I showed you with the keyboard. We're focusing on little things like that. And then your second question, I think when looking at the phone and you see that you get great photo apps, you get so many great experiences on different apps. Well, when you look at the calendar, like it could be on Android, it could be on iOS or any other platform. Like no one has really worked on it from that perspective as a platform, unified platform on different on those different platforms, because you would go on Android, you would find the best calendar on Android. But it's probably someone else who is doing the best calendar, 5-star calendar on iOS. And no one has really created, besides Google Calendar, which just released their iOS app. No one had really focused on delivering great experiences across the board. So this is something that's very important, and we believe the platform is something that untapped for now. Great opportunity for the calendar.
All right, well, thank you very much, Jeremy.
Thank you.